or you're in a disciplined ship. Do as told.
Would you say that that has there been an occasion where the standards were unfamiliar to you, that he's brought songs to you that although they are part of the American Songbook, outside of his own compositions, or were you familiar with all the material outside of his compositions?
Oh no, I haven't been familiar with anything. I just always trying to keep up.
And how does he present the music to you? Does he give you just the lyrics? Does he just say you got it, or does he give you sheet music? What's the story there?
Oh, it's different. It's different.
Well, could you pick one and elaborate? Just one song that you learned from Sun Ra and how you went about learning it.
One, gee. Once we were in California, and the waves came up to greet Sun Ra. And then he asked them to come and greet me, and it tried to cover us. And we were there on the beach, and he wrote this song about they'll come back. And I learned, the lyrics and everything, and it's very beautiful. And that's one of our songs. And then another song, I was learning in Mexico. Sometimes I'm happy. It was the first time he presented that song to me. And I really I don't think I got to do it till I got to Germany, which was years later. And, but it's hard for me to pinpoint things like that, because when Sun Ra puts us on stage to perform, we just do. And we usually are doing ongoing, whatever. And you have, you try to do your best, of course. And it's sincere.
When he presented Sometimes I'm Happy, did he play someone else's recording of it? How did he present the music to you? Did he play it and sing it? How did he do it?
I think it was done on the piano.
Mm-hmm. So did he sing the song then? How did you learn the lyrics?
Yeah.
I guess he must have sung it.
But still, you have to get music, words and stuff.
So then, who's responsible? How does he have that in his arsenal of thing, or did you get the music on your own to the?
Oh no, he had it.
He has it. Okay.
Yes.
One thing that we didn't get Richard Wilkinson's story of how you met Sun Ra and how you became involved in running the shows for him or participating in the shows.
I don't know myself.
You really don't know yourself?
Yeah. Well, I had met Sun Ra. I knew a lot of musicians, and we had a gig in Brooklyn. And I used to use Sun Ra station wagons to transfer the people's drums and whatnot. And I had a piano player. He was always bugging me for more money, more money, more money. And one time when I told him Sun Ra was in the car, he just ran out. He ran out the house. He's ready to work for anything, So we did the job. I met Sun Ra, really. I met him for the first time that night, And, I was, of course...
this would be, about 17, 18 years ago?
Yeah, probably around there.
Late 60s.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then how did you become more involved?
Well, I don't know. I just, I guess it was just a natural thing. I quit my job and I went with him, and, I traveled throughout part of the world with him. And, it's been a great experience and everything. And, he's definitely not an ordinary person, And, his ideas, sometimes he was writing 3-4 songs a day, so like the question you asked her, how did she get in there? You never know. Plus, he always out. He buys sheet music, he appreciates other people's music and his own music too,
Right.
But I bought some records.
Yeah, when did you start collecting Sun Ra records, and how did you get these 45s? Is that part of the entourage? Did Sun Ra have these?
Well, yeah. Well, I had them quite a while, and a few of them are very good. And I just brought them up because I was thinking that maybe they didn't play these.
Mm-hmm.
So this one here that's on the turntable, I think I first heard it in 1970, and it's really got a real modern sound. And John Gilmore is on there too, but you'll check it out.
We just heard some 45s from the collection of Richard Wilkerson. They are Sun Ra Saturn 45s, all distinct rarities, and some of them not the easiest records to even listen to because no radio stations have them, not even us. But we got them because Richard came by and brought them. In order, we heard The Perfect Man, which is from the Saturn 45, whose catalog may or may not be ES537-B. The Perfect Man featured Sun Ra on the Moog synthesizer, and it also featured a tenor saxophone solo by John Gilmore, a nice addendum to our John Gilmore presentation of the afternoon hours. Gilmore again presented with Richard's wife June Tyson as co-vocalists on Enlightenment, which is from the Saturn 45 ES538-B. And then finally, we heard Love in Outer Space, I believe the vocalist David Henderson. This from a different kind of label, by the way, for those of you who are watching on television. This one is in black and orange trim. Saturn Records. This particular catalog number may be 256, or it may be 62775B. One's probably a mastering number, and it featured, again, Love in Outer Space. 3 Sun Ra 45s, and it's a pleasure to play these 3 rarities for you, and I must thank Richard Wilkerson, who has another 45. By the way, this is all going on live, and it's part of the Entourage North, if you will, as we're in New York City, and Sun Ra's returned to Philadelphia, but many of his musicians, Vincent Chansey is here, and we got to take a chance on playing some more of your records. He's got something special that'll be coming up in an interview with Elliot Pratt, but right now, you wanted to say something, Richard Wilkerson, about the 45 October.
Oh yeah, this particular song, before I even got this 45, and I must have had it quite a few years, I had a couple of records by I can't remember the name, the tuba player, what's his name? No, he played bass, stayed in California. Red Calendar, right. And they was on the Crown label, and there was one record in particular, I think he did all kind of things, November, September, and I think this tune, but I never could find a record to really check out whether it was the same October. But anyway, it's a pretty song, and it's on a 45, and I doubt if you can even get it today.
Okay, we're listening to rare Sun Ra Saturn 45s from the collection of Richard Wilkerson, who, of course, was a leading figure in the Sun Ra entourage from roughly 68 or so into the cusp of the 70s into the 80s, putting together the multimedia stage managership of the presentations and also catering to whims and special moments of fancy that sort of dotted some of the highlights that we remember as we went from planet to planet and as Richard Wilkerson would remember from city to city. And I'm glad that he has also continued his work for Coach Barry Harris down at the Cultural Theater on 8th Avenue at West 29th Street, where there are also some rare records. I'm impressed. If you got Red Calendar on Crown, you're a collector. And here's October on Saturn. 3 more 45 sides from the collection of Richard Wilkerson, presenting some of the more obscure and rare recordings by the Sun Ra. As we heard, the selection that was touted very highly by Richard, called October, composer credit on the 45 label to Sun Ra, and it is Saturn 45 874, or 874, that's just the catalog number. Sun Ra and his Astro Infinity Orchestra playing October. And it seems to me that that has the flavor of the Chicago period. And we'll talk with our guests, June Tyson, Vincent Chansey, and of course Richard Wilkerson, who brought the 45s, about that in just a few moments. Our second 45 was Saturn Moon. That was from a chip 45, but we just about got you through the first groove. El Saturn presents Sun Ra and his Astro Solar Infinity Orchestra playing intergalactic music, series number 2. And I believe this 45 was 911AR, although there are some other possibilities number-wise. Saturn Moon, sung by the orchestra, featuring Sun Ra on solar sound instrument. Ra. Saturn Moon. And then Yochanan as the vocalist, with a lot of the favorite stop time breaks rousing shout chorus, pep chorus bits, working very well on The Sun Man Speaks, a collaboration compositionally of Sun Ra and Yochanan, and also as the presentation on Saturn 45 986. Saturn presents Yochanan with Sun Ra and his orchestra, and this, I think, clearly a little bit later on, perhaps the late New York period. We're going to turn to our guests now. We have Richard Wilkerson and June Tyson in the orchestra. Richard, here's something that we were talking a little bit about with Sun Ra. You probably can handle it better in terms of history and logistics than anyone else we know of. The transfer from New York as the base of operations to Philadelphia. Can you give us any insight on that? And when it took place and what happened when they first arrived in Philly?
Well, I really don't remember, the year or whatnot, but I think the reason why they moved to Philadelphia because, number one, they were having problems getting a place in New York where they could rehearse because sometimes they could rehearse all night. So that's like an impossibility in New York. So, eventually they moved to Philadelphia and they do rehearse all night over there.
Okay. What about opportunity? Was there anything in particular encouraging about Philadelphia? Was it because it was close to New York City? It wasn't that much of a hop? Was there opportunity? Was there? You were there for the end of the Slugs period, yes? The Monday nights?
Yeah.
So was there anything corresponding to that in Philadelphia where outside of the rehearsals, where there'd be a place to play and do things?
Well, I think it was better for them over there when they went over there as far as they had a place to stay, but I used to commute to New York every day during that period, usually back and forth on Amtrak. He probably spent more money on Amtrak than anybody.
Frequent flyer tickets at any point for him on Amtrak?
Huh?
Did he get any frequent flyer tickets on Amtrak?
No, he paid the full price.
He has indeed. Now, tell us about, you were helping to date some of these records by the instruments. You were particularly picking up on the clavelin on Saturn Moon, right? That was the record that had it.
I think that was called clavinet. He was playing that on the Enlightenment and the...
Well, a clavinet isn't a clavinet sort of like a melodica type instrument?
No, it's a keyboard.
Well, that's a clavichord, isn't it? Clavinet too. Okay.
He was playing, he played a claveline too, I think.
What's a claveline?
I think that was a French electronic instrument
in
those days. That's on, I think, the Magic City. That's on that album.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we'll throw this out. So would you agree that the first thing that October, which is a favorite of yours, that seemed to be the Chicago period?
It definitely sounds like the Chicago band.
Yeah. And Saturn Moon, the New York band?
Yes.
And the Sun Man Speaks, was that the Philly period, or is that early also?
No, that might have been Chicago too.
When did Yochanan, any insights on Yochanan?
I don't remember.
Did you meet him ever?
No, I might have. I don't even know.
Okay, let's turn back to June Tyson and see any interesting performances that you remember that stand out in your mind with Sun Ra, or perhaps after all we've done over the past 100 hours, 32 minutes, and 30 seconds, maybe we can even have an anecdote by this time. Any stories, any gigs, any memories?
Well, every gig was a story. I can't compare it to other groups or bands because I really wasn't in other groups, but there's always something unusual going on with the Sun Ra band that made it very exciting and very to the edge or the point of whatever was happening was and is still going on, and it's always changing. Everything's always changing, and it may appear to be similar or something to that effect, but it's such a tremendous undercurrent of change that you have to be up to be a part of it,
We have our two guests, June Tyson, Richard Wilkerson. Any memories of people coming to hear the music that you remember, and do you remember their reactions? Anything stand out in your mind on that area?
Well, I know there's really a lot of Sun Ra fanatics, I'd say, I guess, like me, and I know a lot of them that come to mostly every time Sun Ra plays. And, well, I guess all I can say to them, I can say happy Sun Ra Festival.
What happens to the mail that is sent to the El Saturn address in Chicago now?
I don't know. Have you
Good
sent
question.
any there lately?
Let's send a poster. Let's send a poster.
Have they been sending any there lately?
I don't know.
Well, I would probably think that maybe there is another address or something that they could write to if they don't get any answer there.
Mm-hmm.
What that address is. I couldn't even tell you. I don't know what June could tell you, but maybe she could find out and before the festival is over and get back to the station and you can announce it on the air.
Okay, thank you very much. Phil Schaap and Master Control with June Tyson and Richard Wilkerson. There's this album over here that may be misspelled. It says Taking a Chance on Chances, but it's supposed to be Taking a Chance on Chancey, and I'm going to take a chance here too. Vincent Chancey, do you have any questions? Could you, two heads are better than one. Why don't you ask a question to one of our, let's say, scared? No, he's got this mic. You keep that one. He's going to talk to you. I'm going to have a co-interviewer. Vincent Chancey, got any questions for Richard or June?
Oh, boy. I don't know. You mentioned different experiences. A couple of them came to mind, and I'm sure with them, probably a lot of stuff comes to mind too, but it's just so hard to talk about it, on the spur of the moment.
Okay.
But it was just one particular story. Could I share this story?
Sure.
This is shortly after I got in the band. We were traveling on the southern route through Texas, I think. Couple cars, a couple vans. So it was about 10 or 11 at night, and Sunrise said he was hungry. So, we're on Route 9 or something? One of those, Route 10, maybe, that southern route down there. So we were going through this small town, and, I noticed the sign that said Deming, New Mexico, right? So we saw a sign that said restaurant, so we got off the highway, went about 3 miles, following more signs, small signs that just said restaurant. Small road, went down this road, and after we pulled into a little clearance in the trees, and there was a restaurant, Budweiser sign, a couple of cars, vertically parked there. So we got out, and the whole band went in the restaurant. There was a bar at the far end, and the pool table, and, all of these rednecks sitting around with, cowboy hats and drinking Budweiser. So, Sunrise and the band walked into the restaurant. You have cats with turbans and capes. And Sunrise had on this big, the shirt with the big Saturn on the front of it. Yeah, the hat on with lights spinning around his head. So, everybody at the bar, their mouths fell open. It's just like 10 or 11 at night. It's just like, the band landed from another planet, right? So, I was new in the band, so I was able to see what they were seeing, I mean, like, June and Richard, they were all just like, yeah, where's the food, Everybody was ready to eat, but I was looking at them, seeing what they probably saw, as well as saying, yeah, where's the food? So, that was just such a strange experience. A couple other things on the road happened like that, where I just noticed people, taking notice of the band, just in transient, walking through a town or whatever. A couple of times first time I did the tour with Sunrise in 76 in Paris, I was his walking buddy. So we'd walk for like 12, 15 hours all over Paris. And just, the different responses that people would give him, some people would know him, come up to him and say hello, The people would all, just looking dismayed because, he dresses the way he generally dresses on stage. So that came to mind when you said experiences. All right.
Well, Vincent Chancey, I came up with an idea that I'm going to throw out. I'm going to give you a little time for preparation. Obviously, we're supposed to be improvisers here in a jazz music world, but June Tyson, Richard Wilkinson, if you can come up with a travel story, we'll spin 3 more 45s and come back to you because he got a great one. Maybe we'll have our little 45 party after all. You're listening to the Sun Ra Festival on WKCR FM New York, 89.9 on the dial. Phil Schaap and Master Control. Here we're going to play some flip sides of the first 3 45s. Some of these are blank labels, and We'll come back and talk about them. 3 more 45 sides from the collection of Richard Wilkerson, featuring Sun Ra recordings, many of which are rare, even among the rare. And there were a lot of fine sides, as we heard. First, the blank label flip side of The Perfect Man, which is actually probably the A side, since it is the well-known Batman refrain. And, of course, on Sun Ra's discography is his appearance on the popular Batman 45 thing, and I believe John Gilmore is also supposed to be on that. In any case, Batman was the first selection we heard from Saturn 45 ES537-B. Then a double-sided label on Saturn, ES538, and this was Journey to Saturn. This featured June Tyson and John Gilmore again as our vocalists, and June had the last word on this side. Saturn, Sun Ra and his Astro Intergalactic Infinity Orchestra, Journey to Saturn, a Sun Ra composition, the second of our 45 sides. And then we went on to the labeled side of Saturn 45 256 and heard Mayan Temple with the excellent oboe work from the remarkable reed man, Marshall Allen. Turning back to the remarkable figures in our studio as part of the Sun Ra Festival, live interview going on here on WKCR FM New York, 89.9 on the dial. We have Richard Wilkerson and vocalist June Tyson, and we have the topic that Vincent Chansey brought to us, and it's an excellent one, road stories. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, ladies first.
Okay. I like to think of the first time I went to Egypt, and we lived in the Mina house, which was in Giza, which is where the main pyramids in Egypt is. We arrived there at night, and we were fortunate enough to get rooms with the balcony, and you could see the silhouette of the pyramids in the moonlight. And I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. And my pleasure was to rush to my room every night and sit on the balcony and just look at the silhouette until I got tired, and went to bed. I'll never forget.
Do you recall any of Sun Ra's reactions to the pyramids?
Well, Sun Ra was busy. From the time we hit Egypt to the time we left, he was on a mission. And he's gone. He had things to do. I don't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. I did but of course I was in place to do what I was supposed to when necessary. But Sun Ra was, had his things. And we had our little things. And it was just fabulous. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. We danced. We marched on the pyramids, and we rode on the camels, and we had our own photographer that took pictures of us with the wind blowing and our costumes were like wings billowing in the breeze, because see, the pyramids is on a plateau and it's always windy. So you've got this wind action going and you've got this thin material, and it was just beautiful. I've never experienced anything before in all my life, and I was transported.
June Tyson's road memory in Egypt with Sun Ra and the orchestra. Man who has taken Sun Ra to many places nowhere near as exotic as the pyramids of Egypt, is the man behind the scenes who's done so much to keep the orchestra afloat and continues that work for Coach Barry Harris down at the Cultural Theater. Richard Wilkerson, your road story.
Well, Phil Schaap's picking our brains here, talking more than I intended to, but yeah, with Sun Ra, a lot of strange things happen around him. And I can remember one of the first trips to Europe, and we were going all over France and packing them in. And we had one gig in Paris, And I was worried about it, and some of was probably worried about it because it was only one gig, and I was thinking that there was so many people wanted to see the band. So they did a big advertisement thing. They had big giant pictures of Sun Ra and everything before we came in Paris, and we were playing at supposed to play at a place, and the name of the place, it was a circus. The name of the circus was Richard and June Circus. But anyway, that night they wasn't going to have the circus. They was having a band there. When so many people came out, it brought out about 1,000 police. And then they stopped people from coming into the concert because there were so many people out there in the street. They didn't want to ride or anything. And it was a very bad situation, so I went to the promoters and asked them what they were going to do, and they said, well, you know, unless the band played, there's no money. So when I turned around, Sun Ra was walking out of the theater. The band was going behind them. I was going behind them, and we went out in the street, and everybody marched down. There was a big blockade of maybe 50 to 100 policemen, and they knocked the barrier down, and the rest of the people came in, and they played the concert, and everything was cool for the rest of the night.
That's a story that Pat Patrick remembers. He remembers,
he was there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you for the road stories.
Okay, they had a big thing in the newspaper about it. You know, they had pictures where the police was falling down and whatnot, and it was really something.
Okay. Well, we have 3 more of your 45 sides. Again, let me thank Richard Wilkerson for bringing all these little tidbits from the collection and from the discography of Sun Ra. These 45s themselves look like they have traveled from planet to planet, but they still play. And we've got the final 3 sides of the second batch. And here they are. Well, I don't know what your opinion is, but they like that one in Master Control here at WKCR FM New York, 89.9 on the dial. Phil Schaap hosting a dual or 2.5 interview with Richard Wilkerson, June Tyson. Vincent Chansey is here. Elliot Bratton is about to take over and do an at-length interview with Vincent Chansey on his tours with the orchestra. But we've been having some go-rounds. I remember the old-fashioned 45 parties. Where were you when we were having them, Richard? Your 45s are out of sight. And we just heard Adventure in Space. Adventure is spelled Adventur, Sun Ra composition. Saturn Records, a Saturn 45, Sun Ra and his Astro Infinity Orchestra. And that is from Saturn 45, 874. Then from the Chip 45, on El Saturn presents Sun Ra and his Astro Solar Infinity Orchestra playing Intergalactic Music Series 2. We heard Blues on Planet Mars. And that from El Saturn's 45 911 AR. And then finally, the How Are You message to the Earthman with Yochanan, again, I think, delivering the message with Sun Ra. Yochanan and Sun Ra with his orchestra singing Message to Earthman from Saturn 45 986. That's a wild thing. All 6 45s, and we've now heard both sides, are just wonderful. And thank you, Richard Wilkerson.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you, June Tyson. You know, Andy Rotman was the gentleman who's been, for one thing, working very hard on this festival, but also walking around this room while we're talking, being very, very quiet. And he's asked for you not to be quiet. He said, could you sing WKCR and Sun Ra as an ID, as we've just passed the 5 o'clock thing. Now, a legal ID, and it doesn't have to be legal because this is the Sun Ra Festival, but if you want to include it, part of the lyric should include WKCR FM New York and the word Sun Ra. You think you can do anything for us?
Oh, sure.
All right.
Our legal ID is WKCR FM New York.
Thank you very much. That was June Tyson, who is the vocalist, of course, with Sun Ra and his orchestra, and also now the best announcer at the station. And Richard Wilkerson, the conclusion of our interview with you and your wife, June Tyson, is this little cassette box here. Is it my guess is as good as yours, or do you know what's up there?
Well, I particularly like the end of the song because he's by himself and the audience starts singing at the end of the song. And a lot of times I think I hear the band, but they were thousands of miles away, so it could have been them. But they start on time and they end right on time, the audience, and, you know, it's something special.
something special for us who enjoy the music of Sun Ra's, the visit of Sun Ra's people who are here with us today. June Tyson, Richard Wilkerson, and to follow, Vincent Chansey. I'm Phil Schaap. I'll be turning it over to Elliot Bratton, but first, one last delight from the reservoir of music in the collection. And you are, sir, a collector, Richard Wilkerson. Thank you. This is WKCR FM New York, and I can't sing it.
theme of the stargazer. Stargazers in the sky. This is the song of tomorrow's world. A cosmic paradise. Satellites are spinning. The universe is waiting. The universe is waiting for planet Earth's awakening. Sing this song to great tomorrow. Sing this song to body sorrow. Sing this song to great tomorrow. Sing this song to body sorrow. Sing this song to great tomorrow. We sing this song to about its sorrow. We sing this song to great tomorrow. We sing this song to about its sorrow. Sing this song to great tomorrow. Sing this song to about its sorrow. Sing this song to great tomorrow. Sing this song to about its sorrow. Sing this song to great tomorrow. Sing this song to about its sorrow. Sing this song to great tomorrow. Sing this song to